Thanks for clicking on this video. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon and turn on all notifications to keep up to date with the latest information and discussions. A tale as old as time. Or as long as Toriyama wants it to be before he changes it again. Hey guys, MasakoX here. Now, Dragon Ball has been going through a lot of refreshing changes as of late. For decades, what we once thought was the case has turned out to be mixed up with some brand new thinking in terms of the history of a particular species in the world of Universe 7. And that is, of course, the Saiyans. Pretty much one of the few beings in Dragon Ball that is truly popular and, of course, profitable. Now, we've talked about the history of the Saiyans ages ago in a handy video using evidence that we had at our disposal back in 2017, before Broly's revival was even a viable concept. To laugh at that back then. We had a very vague understanding of the ancient past of the Saiyans, going back to the pre-Battle of Gods time, and we were even more in the dark. Today though, we may be starting to get a better composition and understanding as to how the Saiyan race came to be, where they are today, despite the fact that they are just a handful of them left. Well, more if you wish to throw a twist in there or make another movie. I'm looking at you, Turles, and you, Cumber. Don't think I've forgotten about you. The Broly movie has come and gone. And yes, we have talked about this movie a lot on this channel. But it has truly given us a lot to talk about. And not just the whole fight with Broly and the Z Fighters and, you know, that fight with Broly and The movie has given us a lot of insight into the past of the Saiyans. It wasn't just a bit of fan service at the beginning of the movie, or the integration of Minus into the story of Bardock. The narrative sorted out some elements of the lore which were uncertain or pretty vague from previous documentations and books and stuff like that. We had to pretty much do a lot of guesswork. While some of the stuff may differ from the older interpretations that we have, we finally have a clearer image onto how we could look at our favorite monkeys and what circumstances may have led to their destruction at the hands of Frieza. However, in the modern post-Battle of Gods era, Toriyama has unpacked a lot of new and often seemingly contradictory lore to the overall history of the race, and some of it you can only really experience through interviews or some of the extended universe stuff, like Dragon Ball Legends or online, and even Super Dragon Ball Heroes if you really want to stretch it out. Haverock and I are going to undertake a two-part discussion, the entire history of the Saiyan race as of 2019, and the introduction of the Broly movie into the mythos. The first part today will be related to something that we would call the ancient era of the Saiyans. What do I mean exactly? We're going to be using a particular king as the division between ancient history and modern history. More on that later. All of this information has been sourced from official publications and from what we could glean from interviews, inference and all of that. So enjoy, and I hope that you feel informed. The very first mention of a Saiyan in the Dragon Ball timeline is back in the pre-ages. Around pre-age 238, a Super Saiyan is allegedly supposed to have appeared out of nowhere. This is of course the legendary Super Saiyan we could think, that we are accustomed to. He makes the universe tremble throughout his destruction and massacres. Now wait, Masako, where is this information coming from? There is a timeline in Daizenshuu 7 which is a holy grail of Saiyan history, or Dragon Ball history in general, which has been lovingly translated by the people over at MagicCarp46.com. I'll leave a link to it in the show notes below in the pinned comment. Given what we know in comparison to what was known when this timeline was originally made, around about 1995 or so, it makes the whole thing feel pretty weird actually. The modern era Toriyama, according to various documentations, seems to confirm that the Saiyan of legend, as in both the Super Saiyan God and the original legendary Super Saiyan that we're most familiar of, were one and the same. Yamoshi, and the way he is referred to later on, makes him out to be more of a heroic figure rather than a figure that can spread fear across the universe like the original history note put in. This could be down to Toriyama's own writing style, which can cause confusion at times when referring to stuff he said in the past. He can be quite forgetful like that. Here's an excerpt concerning his style from the Super History book of Dragon Ball from 2016. I kind of liked forcing everything to come together, since that way it made it seem like I'd really thought deeply about everything. I don't plan things out right from the start. Instead, when I think of how to make the story come together, I basically just go, hey, I bet I could use that thing. With characters too, I'm like, oh hey, that guy's still alive. Maybe I could use him. So it ends up seeming like as if I'd been thinking about this story for an incredibly long span of time. Well, fair enough, you might say. Of course, it can be easily attributed to the fact that the legend got a lot of the stuff wrong. Toriyama, if you want to take a look at this from an in-world point or a realistic point of view, could have written history in the eyes of another perspective. History, it is said, is written by the winners. After all, the next thing we know about Yamoshi is that he started a rebellion against some evil Saiyans, and with the help of 6 other Saiyans, he managed to turn into a Super Saiyan god, which by itself is weird, as he didn't really win the fight. It wasn't an historic victory. We do know, however, that he managed to overpower the evil Saiyans that he sought to vanquish. But despite all of this, he and his friends were still wiped out. So if that was the case, then why has his legend survived to trouble even the likes of Beerus, the most powerful non-angel in Universe 7? We speculate that over the centuries that followed, the evil Saiyans that survived Yamoshi's purge changed the legend in order to benefit from the reputation of Yamoshi's incredible power. If this Saiyan could have this kind of power, then perhaps they do too. And thusly, the reputation of Saiyans being some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy may have been forged. Still though, they weren't successful in the long run. And somehow, both versions of the legend are floating around within Saiyan society, and no one has been able to fully remember the finer details. Speaking of evil Saiyans, we actually might have an idea of what they look like before they were consigned to mud huts. Now, before you guys do the whole "but Masako" thing, yep, we're using Super Dragon Ball Heroes as a potential source. Yes, I know that this series got off on a wrong tangent from the main timeline and it didn't really age well, but it does have its moments which are rooted to the original lore, so it could work the other way as well. That series introduced an evil ancient Saiyan, one that troubled Goku and Vegeta and even the likes of few. That is Cumber. Cumber has had a lot of unique abilities thrusted at us, which our typical Saiyans do not possess, and as we know from what we are told, he is meant to be an ancient Saiyan that few pulled from the timelines, following his parents' footsteps, am I right, to use for his own nefarious deeds and fun. Not only that, but Cumber is referred to as an evil Saiyan, like one of the evil Saiyans of the Super Saiyan God mythos. He also reacts very strongly towards Goku's display of the Super Saiyan God form. Why would he though? If he were just an average Saiyan that few just happened to find, who was powerful, the red aura and hair of Super Saiyan God would not cause any recognition at all to cross their mind. It'd just be like, what is that power? No, this form is known to Cumber, and it's bad news bears as far as he's concerned. Now, granted, we don't really have confirmation that this is the case, but where could an ancient Saiyan have seen this form before Goku and Vegeta could do it? Well, Yamoshi. So maybe this guy, at least in the Heroes continuity, which is nowadays often a testing ground for the main storyline, might be one of the enemies of Yamoshi that we remember. One of the evil Saiyans that Yamoshi set out to defeat when attaining the power of the God Key and few just picked him up and took him out of the timeline. But wait, things get even more interesting. Despite his blandness and being basically the mix of the OG Broly and Bane from the Batman series, he does have some interesting Great Ape based powers to hand. He's not all pure muscle and screaming like the old days of Z. Remember the whole God Vegeta versus Broly thing that we've been talking about in the last few videos? We're very keen about that. What if that encounter is an echo of this conflict? Seeing how Super Saiyan God is basically Yamoshi's spirit granting Goku or Vegeta his own powers via the initial ritual and then subsequent openings of the third eye in later series, it's not hard to assume that there is a relation between the three. Now what is more interesting is that Yamoshi's silhouette when we are first shown this power and this legend even looks similar to Vegeta. So maybe he's an ancestor of both Goku and Vegeta. Hence why Vegeta, despite his not so pure past, could access the form as well in the long run, and possibly having the ritual. Which would then make Broly a potential descendant of one of the fiercest evil Saiyans of all time. Is Cumber perhaps a relative of Broly, an ancestor? They're both green vegetables after all. I joke of course, but it is food for thought. Alright, we have some workings out to go with this idea. Broly's genetic innate memory literally remembered the power of Super Saiyan God and kicked in a power boost upon exposure to it. Hidden deep in his mind and body, a fierce power was unleashed. It wasn't just a cheap boost or anything. This was his body's fight or flight mechanism kicking into high gear for the first time in order for him to stand a chance against God Ki. Of course, these are just our speculations. Now, there is another ancient Saiyan that we should mention here if we're going into Heroes Country, and that is of course Shallot. We cannot really talk a lot about him as he suffers from memory loss at this time in the legend's lore. What we do know, however, is that he most certainly comes from the original Saiyan homeworld of Sadala, so he is most definitely an ancient Saiyan who has travelled in time to the present. He also seems to have some sort of rivalry with this mysterious Saiyan in red, who might be Shallot from another timeline, or a Goku Black X figure. Yeah, that situation. I mean, come on. Time travel in Dragon Ball bringing forth bad guys, it's happened before, it could happen again. What is interesting about all of that is that he calls Goku Blood of the Tainted and Shallot himself Blood of the Defeated, which strongly supports the whole Saiyan Civil War idea that is written about in Daizenshu 7 as well as other publications, and what led to the Saiyans fleeing Sadala in the first place. Does Shallot represent the fallen comrades of Yamoshi, while Goku is the descendant of the Super Saiyan God family tree, or Yamoshi himself? This is just a concept naturally, but it fits nicely within our puzzle, especially considering that Toriyama has his hand in designing both of those Shallot and Yamoshi type characters. Now, to sum up some other events of the ancient Saiyans that are worth mentioning, after the discovery of the legendary Super Saiyan, the Saiyans go dark for a long time, or at least don't cause too much trouble, until age 550, when Sadala was destroyed by an internal conflict, a civil war that we suppose. When this tussle ended, the Saiyans that we know of today needed to find a new place to call home after their planet had been essentially scorched. We know that they later moved to Planet Plant, which will one day become Planet Vegeta. Now, there are two versions concerning how these Saiyans got to Planet Vegeta. One of them suggests that they stole a spaceship somehow from a passing colony vessel, and the other one moots that they were moved to Planet Plant, and therefore Planet Vegeta, by a mysterious spaceship offering them sanctuary. Okay? Well, we're going to elaborate on that in the second part of this discussion, as this is the turning point that we talked about earlier. There, we will discuss the meaning of that statement and that spaceship, as well as the rise and fall of the modern Saiyans. Stay tuned for part 2. So what do you guys think? Did you feel informed by this video? Are you thinking that the Saiyans had a pretty rough time of it? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. For now, I shall see you in the next one. Catch you later!